right, everybody. Greetings and welcome to Conflict Radio. Hopefully, everybody can hear me. Today is September 11th, 2021. Let's see. Let me say hi to everybody that's in here. I see Ian, myself in here. How you doing? Arlene Atkins. Hi. Antonio. Good to see you. Go Team 911. I see you're in here reporting in. Mr. Fox. Hi. Strange Love, Distortion of Reality. Let's see. Who else is in here? Not quite human. I don't know if we're. Looks like I'm going back here a little bit. Vash Wolfwood is in the house. How is everybody doing today? I guess there's a few people in here. I see Jersey Dolphin. Pete gets a good break. I guess he'll be back soon. Is anybody else getting a lag? I don't know if it's me. Go Team 911. I see Travis DeLuca. Bad Wolf is here. All right. So I wasn't going to do a show today, to talk about September 11th, but decided to lag. Yes, Carol says. You guys want to hang on, and I'll go. I've got this. I got this thing I can plug in. I got the plug in. I didn't plug the thing in today. Let me just give me a second, guys. I won't be long. Maybe 30 seconds. I'll plug it in so it doesn't do that. All right. I see Don M is here. How you doing, Don? Gregory DeGraff, Ludicrous Speed. I see a bunch of people in here. All right. So, like I was saying, hopefully that solves the lag. Let me go over here and make sure that the yep. All right. So it's connected. The plugin's good to go. All right, guys. So I wasn't going to do a show. 20 years. It's a long time, isn't it? I get statistics of the people that listen to this show, and most of everybody that, like, I guess about 70% of the people that listen to this show, who are subscribers anyway, or who have accounts, I suppose, are between the ages of 30 and 50, 30 and 60 probably. So most of the people here were alive when this happened. I guess that's kind of what I want to talk about today. We're going to do open lines later. If anybody wants to call in and share where they were the day that this happened 20 years ago. I was 26. I was living in Delanco, New Jersey. And I was working at the Simon & Schuster warehouse in Riverside. I was driving a forklift around and stocking books. All kinds of books. Lots and lots of books. Massive place. But I was working nights. I would work like 6 to 2 in the morning. And so I slept. I got home from work. On September 10th, got home from work. I think that was a Monday. Got home from work Monday night. I guess it was early Tuesday morning, 2:30 a.m. maybe. And made myself some dinner, whatever. Watched the news for a little while. Watched whatever was on TV in 2001. Who knows what it was, right? At 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning or whatever it was. And then I went to bed. And the next day changed all of our lives, didn't it? 2001 was before cell phones. I didn't have a cell phone. Well, I think we had cell phones. It was right on that cusp of people having cell phones and not having cell phones, right? Like, I remember having a cell phone soon afterwards. I was like, I'm getting a cell phone. That's never happening to me again. And I'll tell you what happened. On 9/11, I slept. I slept through the entire thing. I woke up at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, as I always do, and took a walk down to the deli right there in Delanco. And if anybody's in Delanco, New Jersey, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I went down there for an egg and cheese croissant and didn't have any idea what had happened. And when I found out, it wasn't like watching it in stages. When I found out, I found out everything at one time. And I remember I was actually on my way back from getting a sandwich. And can anyone see me in the chat? Yes, Go Team 911. I see you. I see you here. All right. So I ran into my neighbor and he was like, you know, what? I was like, hey, how you doing? Whatever. He's like, oh, you know, crazy day, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why? What's going on? It's like, oh, like he was totally in shock. Like, how do you not know what has happened? And I was told that, oh, the World Trade Center was hit by a plane. Oh, really? Yeah, it fell down. Oh, shit, it fell? Yeah, they both fall. What? They both fell. Yeah, they both fell. And the Pentagon was attacked. And there's planes dropping out of the skies everywhere, all around us. And, you know, New Jersey, that's kind of what it was. We were kind of in the middle. New Jersey's kind of in the middle of where everything was going on. So that was a very stress-filled day, I suppose. You know, I quickly go inside and turn on the TV and, you know, of course, every channel's down. Remember how every channel was down? You know, our broadcasting is ended for today, or we're not doing any broadcasting. Our hearts go out to, you know, and I'm like going through the channels, like what the hell, you know, like what's going on? And I'm like, what am I hearing is right? And get over to the news, and sure enough, there it is. It's like all like they replay it over and over and over again. You know, different things. This tower falling, that tower falling. I had no idea the order that anything had happened. You know, I had no idea. I was like soaking in everything all at once. And I called my job. Sure enough, they, you know, by that time I woke up, everybody's already like, oh, we have to try to maintain as much normalcy as possible. You know, so Distortion of Reality says, what hit the Pentagon? I mean, you know what? We have theories about that, and we have theories about 9/11, but that's not really what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about where were you and what is your story. I don't want to talk about what you think happened, or, I mean, we all have our ideas on what we think happened, or our theories, or, you know, I get it. But let's try to avoid that today. So I did go to work that night, and of course, you know, listening to the radio on everything that's going on, you know, all night long while I was working. Get off, go back home, and listen to the radio. And keep in mind, you know, I'm getting home at like 2 a.m. And I think Art Bell was coming on at 1. I didn't know that then, and I thought, there is no way I'm going to sleep tonight and I'm going to sleep through something else, because didn't we all have that fear that something else was going to happen? You know, as the night got dark, you know, I remember actually getting home and I was watching a little bit of stuff on the news before I went to bed that night, and our power went out for like 2 minutes. And it was probably the most panic-filled 2 minutes of my life. It was when the power went out that night on 9/11, 2001. But it did come back on, thankfully. And then I did go to bed, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to sleep and I'm not having the radio on or something on. I got to listen to something. So I turned the radio on and went through the stations until I found something that I could sleep to. And it was the first night that I listened to Art Bell. And anybody who listens to Art Bell, maybe you remember the first show you listened to. And that's awesome. You know, Art Bell was that right for all of us. He was a comfort, especially on 9/11, right? I mean, I had no idea who he was or what the show was about. I had no clue. I just listened and slept and never didn't listen to Art Bell again. I would go to work and come home and Art Bell was on and I listened to the entire show every night until he was no longer on the air. So I guess that's my story. Is the sound okay, guys? It seems like I'm a little loud here. Let me turn me down a little bit. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. And let's see here. Hit that like button, guys. It does help get more people in here for the open lines. You guys know that. I guess we got about 61 people in here. I see a lot of the normal people. Rob P. I played hooky from work and watched it all from the first broadcast. I get it. I would imagine it's funny, right? How they immediately went to, oh, we have to stay normal. Right? Who does that? Like that was their big push. We have to get to normal right away. We can't let them win. I don't know. But like I said, that's my 9/11 story. It was kind of an all at once thing. I don't know what it was like to watch it unfold. I slept through the whole thing. But here we are, 20 years later, talking about Art Bell on my own show. And let's see what you guys got to say. Mr. Fox says he was a senior in high school. 10th grade, I tested out 3 days after 9/11, says Spartano Negative. Chuck Bam says, well, says the same thing he always says. Rest in peace, Art. Distortion of reality. Yeah, that's right. Art was one of a kind, wasn't he? Ian myself says, first Art Bell show was when I had shortwave AM FM radio as a kid. Was too young to know what I was listening to. Yeah, that's true. Bad Wolf 911 was crazy for me, man. I was posted guarding the Potomac on bowling like 24 hours straight. Leon Mohan says, the day the world changed. Art Bell and Richard C. Hoagland was radio gold. You know, you got to wonder today how much Art Bell would be censored, right? Boy, would he roll in his grave trying to talk on a radio show that he couldn't say certain things. I bet he would have woke a lot of people up, huh? Cookie Therapy says, funny that I was interviewing with an airline and the questions were bizarre. Under the conditions, I was like, no thanks. I heard a lighter. Are you smoking a bowl? No, just lighting a cigarette. Vash says, I was in high school when 9/11 happened. A shit ton of gold stolen that day. I've heard about the gold, right? Wasn't that under Building 7? What's the phone number, Kathy says? All right. So let's open up the lines, shall we? I'll open that up, and I'm going to come over here, turn this off, hit this button, and there we go. Let's see if I can get that. All right. So everybody should be able to see that. There is the open lines number. The lines are open right now. If somebody wants to call, the number is 256-850-4513. Those are the open lines. And let's talk about where you were. What were you doing? Who were you watching with? Let's see. Mia Rhea says, John B. Wells is good too. Well, I don't know. He's not as smart as he thinks he is, John B. Wells. I'll say that. Art would not believe what is happening right now, Vash says. Yeah, that's true. Hey, how you doing, Pyramid 7? Ian, myself, I was 23, a young Army National Guardsman working open to close 7 days a week at a fast food job. Yeah. Everyone was just in a bit of a daze afterwards for days. It was weird, wasn't it? Remember how everybody was driving around in pickup trucks with flags hanging out the back and honking their horns? Conflict Radio, you're on the air. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Marquette, Michigan.
All right, Michigan in the house. How you doing? Are you an Ooper or a troll?
Oh no, I'm not a troll.
No, no. I meant, isn't that a Michigan thing, right? Oopers and trolls.
Oh, yeah, the Uper thing. I'm in the UP. Yeah, I'm in the Upper Peninsula.
Oh,
I
okay.
used to be a troll too.
All right.
How did you know that? You're from Alabama. How would you know that?
Well, I'm not from Alabama. I'm from New Jersey. I live in Huntsville now, but I have a really good friend of mine is from Michigan. He tells me all
Okay.
about the stories up there with the Oopers and the trolls. That's one of those things I
Yeah,
remember
that's
about
funny.
him. So how are you
That's
doing today?
funny.
You getting through the day okay?
Oh, yeah, but it really was. I didn't think it'd be emotional because I know what bullshit it is. Excuse me if I'm swearing, but that day though, it was shocking. I mean, it was. I remember I went to tan. That's in the days that I used to tan those beds, and it was like 10 to 9, and I heard that the first building had hit, and then I was shocked then. Then I just got out of the bed right away, and
So
got
you
back
were
in my car.
you were in bed then when it happened?
No, I was in a tanning bed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'll make you get dressed real quick, didn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, I was freaked out. I just wanted to get my son was only 3 years old, and I wanted to get him out of daycare. And
so kind of walk us through it. Like you were laying in the tanning bed, and I mean, did you jump right out? Like I guess when the first plane had hit, or were you just hearing about the first plane and the second one hit, and that's when you got up?
Literally, when the first plane hit, I knew something was going bad. So I just got out of there. And then on my way back, I wanted to get my son. I just wanted a family by me. I just wanted by me. So, yeah, it was, it was this crisp, clear, beautiful September day. I mean, one of the most beautiful days that you could possibly have. And then this happened. And, it was shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, my husband at the time, he got in line for hours for gas, took out all the money that we had in the bank account because we were gonna flee, like go north, and that was kind of.
Well, where were you gonna flee? Were you in Michigan at the time?
That's when I was living in Midland, Michigan. I was living because I thought, because Midland, Michigan is Dow International, and I thought, Dow could be a good target. So,
now did you?
Yeah, I mean,
when it was over, did you really think it was over? I mean, I was for sure something was going to happen the next day. Like they were talking about, oh, this is just wave 1. Watch out, wave 2 and wave 3 will be coming in the next few days or so, right? Like it was like just waiting for the next shoe to drop.
That first day was really shocking. I don't remember thinking that. I was going to school at the time, get my teaching degree, and I remember, classes were canceled that Tuesday, and I remember I went to class the next day, and everybody was talking about it, and there were a few Arabs in the class, and they were all scared. They were scared for their lives, I do remember that.
Yeah, there was a lot of I think there was a lot of attacks that happened on that community afterwards too, especially in New Jersey. Middletown's coming to mind, or Middleton, or
Right.
something like that.
I mean, now I know what bullshit this whole thing was, but at the time, of course, you didn't, you know?
Yeah. I think it took a lot of us a few years to really see, and honestly, we don't know. I think that we know that the official narrative is not correct, but I don't think anybody really has it right. I mean, there's a thousand theories probably of what really happened, but we all know that the official one is obviously covering things up,
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on. The Pentagon getting attacked, come on. I mean, that's just bullshit. There is no way any plane could get within, 1 or 2 miles from that. I mean, it just takes a little logic to figure this out, but none of us thought that on that day. On that day, it was shocking,
Yeah, it certainly was. All right. Well, I'll let you go and open up the line for the next caller. Thanks for sharing.
Hey, thank you. And I listen to every one of your shows. So keep on going on.
Well, we sure will. Thanks a lot for calling in. I hope you have a great day.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. Well, there's an experience there. If I guess the line's open, guys. So go ahead and give a call. It is 256-850-4513. Go ahead and give a call and let's hear about your experience. What were you doing that day? I'm curious. Arlene says, regardless of what really happened, the outcome was the same. People died. We were scared, mad, energized, traumatized. It's true. All right. I see a lot of people are commenting on theories. Look, we all have our theories. Arlene says later up or further up to scroll here as I go up. My friend called to turn on the TV. At first, I was too stunned to move. Then I went into panic mode, trying to call the schools and get through to my husband. I felt so helpless. It was definitely an interesting time. Let's see. I'm trying to read. Look for comments that are YouTube friendly. Tim Zaller says, I was a freshman in college in Akron, Ohio. We watched it at BW3 and we're hoping a plane didn't hit Kent Street where we were at. Yeah. I mean, everybody was kind of looking for planes. Matthew Wolf says, in 4th grade, watching it while I would imagine he's saying while getting ready for school, I still feel that sense of silence and that odd feeling. Yeah, it's definitely odd. Arlene again says, my husband was supposed to be at the Pentagon but got stuck in traffic and was late. I was like a crazy woman until I found out he wasn't there. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Corn Pop was doing corn. Not Quite Human says. Antonio says, everyone in the UK thought it was going to happen here the same day. Dr. Strangelove says, sold a man in black in a mall, DC that morning. Yeah. All right, guys. The phone number is 256-850-4513. If you don't have a phone, you can, if you go to Skype, just search for Conflict Radio, and you can call that way. Not Quite Human says, I was at a primary school reading to a classroom full of kids. Ian Myself says, it changed my life. 2003, 2012, the Army became my career. Revolving door deployments, field artillery, playing military police in places you can't find on a map. I'm getting sleepy SMR vibes for some reason. Classy Cannabis says. Am I making you want to sleep? I will Skype you. Just finished off a bite to eat first, or just finishing off a bite to eat. All right, Vash. Tell us your story. Where were you? I guess nobody wants to call, so maybe I can wrap the show up early. Let's see. Hi at Classy Cannabis. All right, guys. Well, anybody have anything to say about 9/11? At least not anything nice, right? Let's see. What else do we have right after that? We had the remember the white powder stuff in all our mail? That was crazy in Jersey too. The post office literally put gloves in our mailbox and was like, and like taped notes outside the mailbox like, don't go through your mail without gloves. Report any substances that you find. You know, call this number. What was that? Anthrax, right? I was referencing what Bush was doing. Everything changed that day. Did anyone go to Ground Zero while they were still looking for remains? I was there. Hang on. Conflict Radio, you're on the air. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going, man. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name's Jake, and I am calling from the Ozarks.
Awesome, man. So what were you doing on 9/11?
I was about 8 years old, and I woke up on a school morning, and my mom was sitting in front of the TV. She was rather distraught, and sure enough, the first plane had hit the World Trade Center.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching this unfold, and I'm like, man, I'm just wondering what's going on. I'm 8 years old. I don't really comprehend what's going on at this time. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, wow, there's the classic George Bush quote where, he's reading to the school children, and then he gets told, and his initial thoughts when he's going over to the public is like, wow, what a terrible pilot. And me as a kid, I'd say I'm comparable to the intellect of George Bush in that sense. That was my same thinking, like, man, what a terrible pilot.
Yeah.
But as I'm watching the television, sure enough, the second plane hits. So it's like, all right, we know this isn't an accident. This is a deliberate act of terror.
Well, you didn't know it was an act of terror. You just knew that something was going on,
we
right?
knew we were under attack at that point.
Yeah.
And I went to school anyway. And I'm talking to some of the kids at school, like, hey, have you heard the news? Most of them, they're too busy watching cartoons. But in hindsight, ultimately, my elementary school teacher did ultimately address, like, yeah, there's something going on, and it put a pretty big damper on the rest of the day, let's just say. But from then on out, my attitude towards patriotism really changed after that point, because as a kid, I'm thinking like, what are the motives behind the attack? I remember thinking, because I left for school, and I saw the tower burning, and I thought to myself, well, I think it'll be all right. Never in my mind did I expect that the Trade Center would actually fall down. I thought, it's going to withstand the impact from the plane hitting. And I didn't find out till I got home that, yeah, the World Trade Centers both collapsed, and the Pentagon got hit, and another hijacker was, the plane got derailed out in Pennsylvania, I believe it was. So at that point, I'm discussing it with some of my fellow classmates, and they're all really scared. But to me, I was, I guess, a little bit ahead of the curve. And, I talked to my dad about it weeks later. He was actually on a business trip. There's one thing I remember is...
so he was trapped away from home, wasn't he?
He was out in New Orleans, I believe. He was in Louisiana
Yeah, but
on a
remember
business trip.
they canceled all the flights. Remember how quiet the
Right.
skies were? Like what was it? Like 2 or 3 days, wasn't it, before there were any more flights?
Yeah, I remember that pretty fondly. That
So your
I
dad
lived
was
maybe
trapped.
45 minutes away from the international airport, so everything was really quiet.
Yeah, but your dad was trapped,
And
right? Was he like, oh well, crap? When is Dad coming home? Because there's no way he can get here, right?
yeah, he decided to drive back, and it wasn't a big deal, but it was a minor inconvenience. I'm gonna have to wait an extra week till I get to see my old man. But what I'm getting at is when he did come home, I remember asking him, like, should we be concerned? We're a global superpower, and I had a sense that who would attack us because we're so high and mighty. And I remember thinking all this as a kid, and I'm like, have we ever even lost the war? And he's like, well, we lost Vietnam, but it wasn't really our war, was what he told me. So other kids would mention this to me in class, like, oh, yeah, we're America, ha-ha for them. They just awoke the sleeping giant, and, they're going to pay, we're going to get them. And it just seems so odd to me that these kids with, no prior sense of patriotism had this sense of it just invigorated into them, And I remember a few weeks later, George Bush decided that, if we all chip in $1, it'll go towards the war funds. And I remember being so angry as a kid because I didn't have that much money, saved up. I'd spend it on Pokemon cards or something like that, And I just remember being disgruntled, like, how dare he take my $1 away? And I would mention things like this to kids in my class, like, what about Vietnam? Because we lost Vietnam, and they'd get so irate at me, like, they get scared, like, shut up, we're the best, U.S. #1. And, from then on out, I didn't want to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and things like that did not appeal. So a reverse impact for me, the younger generation, to see this horrific event. I was asking questions like, I thought the Trade Center was going to withstand the impact from the plane. George Bush took my $1 away that was going to go towards my Pokemon card fund. And kids were getting mad at me because I bring up Vietnam and, how it's not our war. And I don't think we ever should have gone in the first place into Afghanistan and Iraq and meddling in the Middle East. So to me, not a very patriotic outlook, because from then on out, I didn't want to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and yeah, that's really all I wanted to share. That I remember all stars and stripes for me.
I remember the day afterwards, September 12th, how united the whole country was. With the flags were on every house and on every car.
Nothing says patriotism like buying a Chinese-made flag from Walmart.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is, what happened? I mean, does nobody care about the United States anymore? I mean, nowadays it seems like, well, if you have a flag out or you're waving a flag, well, that just means you're a Trump supporter and a racist. And
yeah,
I don't understand how we went wrong in 20 years, right?
There's been multiple things where just recently burning of a flag is no longer considered taboo. I think it used to be illegal, even though the proper way to decommission a flag is to burn it, right? And
Yeah.
I've never had a problem with, you'd see these images of these Middle Eastern people, death to America, burning the flag. And, so what? I mean, yeah, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And to me, 9/11 was just a big wake-up call that people need to start asking questions. Don't trust the governments. And yeah, not all stars and stripes for 8-year-old little boy.
Yeah, it definitely wakes you up a little bit, doesn't it? It kind of force you to grow up some.
Oh yeah.
You know, do you feel like 9/11 kind of robbed you of a normal childhood?
Well, you say things progressed after that point towards a little bit more doom and gloom for me. Certainly, I don't think it robbed me of a childhood by any means. You know, I can remember gas prices being low. You know, I grew up on Windows 95, and I had all the technological advances
Yeah.
ingrained into me.
All right, man. Well, thanks for calling in.
Yep, just thought I'd share.
All right, man. Have a good day.
You too.
All right, well, there you go. I think that, you know, for an 8-year-old boy to have to watch something like that, and of course, everybody showed their kids, right? Their kids were watching. My son was 3. He was 3 years old, and we never thought to take him out of the room or anything like that. He remembers the whole day at 3. So you know, that it's interesting, right? How these memories are ingrained into our kids. All right, so let me read some comments here. The line is open if anybody wants to call and share their story. It's 256-850-4513. And let's see here if I can. I'm trying to avoid all of the comments about things that, well, I mean, Alvaro Silva says here, how in the world can it be possible a steel frame building of 110 levels to collapse in 11 seconds on its own? Well, I mean, I don't know. Basic Female says it's wild seeing Bush today reference domestic terrorism and essentially label his own prior supporters as now being the same as the people he sent us to fight in the Middle East. Let's see here. Still listening to records. I still listen to records blows young minds when they realize what I'm listening to. Yeah, right. I have a record player too. You know, vinyl's coming back, isn't it? Ian myself. Distortion of Reality says he still has a typewriter. Carol's Cookie says, I went while they were still looking. I was taking photos, trying to be as respectful as possible. Most of my photos turned out, except for a batch I took near a family viewing Section 1. Yeah, Carol, I guess you had asked that question. I was there too. I went there. I took a train in the city. I think it was a week later I went there. And I remember the smell. It had a smell, didn't it? It was smoke. I mean, it was still everywhere. You know, the dust was everywhere. You were still. I mean, they had certain areas roped off, but there were still a lot of areas open where you would. I mean, I could actually walk by a car that had been there for, you know, a week, still covered in dust, and I could run my finger down the car and have all the dust on my finger, and I wasn't blocked from any of that. You know what I mean? Like, it was such a massive area that was affected in downtown New York that, I mean, the dust was everywhere. And I think I seen a comment earlier, like, where did the buildings go? The buildings were dust. The dust were the buildings. And, you know, that it's just, that's weird, right? Carol says, did you see the bike still chained from the bike messengers? Yeah, I remember I mean, they had some fences around, and they even had they were, like, I guess at the fence entry points, you know, when you actually could get close, they had the National Guard was there, totally armed, guarding the area. Like, you were not going in, you were not getting in there. So there's that one there. I simply refuse to get rid of my old manual things. Oh, okay. I'm sure you're talking about vehicles. All right, we got a call. Hang on. It's Vash. Vash Wolfwood calling. How are you doing? Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, I'm not too bad, Mr. Conflict. How are you today?
Not too bad, man. You know, trying to get through a show. I wasn't gonna do one, and I thought, you know what? Like I don't know. I was so nervous leading up to this show. I didn't know really what I was gonna say, how I was gonna say it. Like I just thought I'd get my story out there and see if anybody wanted to share theirs. Where were you? What were you doing?
I was actually in high school, and I remember just turning on the TV, just doing my regular routine for the morning, and my folks already ended up leaving for work, so it's pretty much a case of me and my brother were going to get ready and just head off. And I remember putting on the TV, and all the channels had the same thing on it. But the thing is, at the time, I didn't know what it was because they weren't showing any footage of towers or any of that. I think they were just showing footage of like
The whole.
what was happening. No, what was happening in Iraq, I think it was. And I think it was at night there. And I don't know if they were retaliating or something like that. Like, I just remember seeing that when I first turned on the TV. And I didn't get a chance to actually see any of the footage from New York until much later in the day. I think even after potentially I came home from school.
So were people talking about it in school though? Like you were sitting around the class? I mean, were you actually in class and it was going on? So what time was it there for you?
Well, everything I think already happened. But we all just sort of woke up to it. So
you like woke up and went to school, not really knowing what had happened over here.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know what happened according to the TV because the TV just kept looping the same footage.
Yeah.
And it wasn't actually of the event in itself. And because we didn't have smartphones and all that sort of stuff, I do remember when we were in class, we were told by a teacher what had happened. And our teacher actually managed to get one of the portable TVs, and we ended up watching the speech I think that Bush did, after everything had happened. But yeah, I think didn't get a chance to see it or look at all of it until I got home. So
now you're in Australia, right? I just want to let all the listeners know that you're in Australia.
Mm-hmm. You betcha.
So when it finally hit that the United States of America was attacked, I mean, did that seem like a big deal to high schoolers in Australia? Like, did it seem like that it was going to affect you guys at all, or was it just like, oh well, America was attacked, oh well, they're going to kick the shit out of somebody, right?
It kind of felt like, it almost felt like one of those sorts of things where it was like a team thing. So it was like, oh, those guys did so and so, and there was that sort of solidarity in some respects between people in terms of like wanting to seek justice.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the tiny little things that happens in your day to day probably weren't really focus of your day anymore. But having said that, the whole entire rest of the week and I'd say weeks after, the footage was just loop.
It was, wasn't
it? It reached a point where it's like, okay, we get it, but I mean, looping it's not going to help anyone.
Well, they've got to ingrain it in your mind, right?
Yeah, they did. And I think from a perspective, like now that I look back on it and think about it, it's almost like the citizens not just the US, but I suppose also other Western sort of countries, but definitely more in the US because that's where it all happened, probably were woken up in some respects, but not in the way that you think, oh, I'm more aware of what's happening, but more a case of this is more real, and that all the stuff that happens around the world that people don't see, people don't know about, and whether they don't know about it because they don't choose to look into it, of all the various terrible things that happen, sort of became a bit more real. And yeah, I think people obviously had that giant fear factor, but it's like the loss of innocence in some respects.
Yeah.
Or a loss of naiveness.
It was kind of the end of your childhood, wasn't it? Like if it's happening in high school.
Yes,
it was kind of like you're okay. Well, I guess there's the world, right? Here's reality.
In some ways, yes. But having said that, I've always been someone that's a bit more curious about lots of different sorts of things, and I always did sort of question things as I was always growing up. So it's always something that's been there. But I've also been someone that's kind of like skeptical about stuff that you see. Like the more times, I suppose, that I have learnt a lesson or seen or heard about history, it makes me then reflect upon current events or events at the time, and then sort of go, okay, hang on, what's the go? So I suppose now if a similar event sort of happened, let's just say here in Australia, I would be very much trying to look past what's happening and try and get a greater scope. It's almost like a magic show where you're just paying attention to what they want you to see. But I think the more important stuff is actually what you're not seeing.
It's strange though, because it did kind of woke me up at 26 as to like I guess a mindset that I didn't quite understand before, and that was like the mindset of what's their beef with us, right? Like who are these people? Like I never really thought of 26, I was all caught up in my own crap going on, you know what I mean, like going to work and dealing with a divorce at the time, and all kinds of other things. I wasn't at all into foreign affairs until this day. I mean, I could give a crap less who these people were, that in Iraq or wherever, Afghanistan, you know what I mean?
No, I do. Do you think though that if you were 26 now, with the access to the internet and everything, do you think you'd still be in a similar position where you wouldn't be paying attention to those things?
I don't know, man. I think it would depend on, I guess, everybody's life path, right? Depends on what you're dealing with.
True.
What you're dealing with in life. If you're bored, I mean, there are kids, that I guess it would be 26 today that all they know is playing video games in front of their computer. I mean, the only thing that's going to wake them up is if something happens and the internet goes out for about a month. That'll shake their life, won't it?
You lose electricity for a couple of days and it shakes your life. We lost use of the microwave for about a week, and God, that was a pain.
Right?
I'd say a few more choice words, but I know that I don't want to get you demonetized.
No, I was in Hurricane Sandy, and we lost power when that thing went through. We lost power for like 3 weeks, and it, after like the 5th or 6th day, you start getting really pissed off. Like, why the hell is my power not on yet? It really starts to get irritating. And anybody that knows what it's like to go without power in your house for a week, going on 2 weeks, 3 weeks, understands exactly what I'm talking about. You start getting really angry, You know, it's one of those things that it's not angry, but you're just real irritable, right? No showers. You're eating off of, you're trying to cook on a little propane stove, and it's, if you have propane, I'm sure we had propane, but I can imagine if nobody had anything. Wendy Lou says, I already knew Art Bell on 9/11, but it's the day I found Glenn Beck. Well, that's awesome. Some of these things you can really. Ikram Musa says 3 weeks, try 6 months. Yeah, no thanks.
Wow,
I don't want
camping.
6 months without power. I'm moving somewhere else. I'm moving where there is power, to be honest with you.
Hey, I was going to actually ask you, have you heard of something called the Global Consciousness Project?
I think so, yeah.
So, and I'm tying this back into 9/11.
All right.
So, for those who
Are
might
you talking
not be
about the
aware-
graph?
Yeah. So the way that
That
actually
like
works.
it was spiking before.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's essentially, and I'm just a little bit of backstory for people that might not know, is that around the world there is random number generators, and they generate a 0 or a 1. And essentially the data just keeps going on and on and on. And this project essentially just tracks that movement. And during 9/11, before it all sort of happened, they noticed a spike in all of those number generators. And it was meaning that the randomness had actually reduced, and that it was actually pivoting more to one number or the other, causing that particular spike in the graph.
Yeah. I actually remember Art Bell having a guest on talking about this.
Yeah. Well, I don't know Art's thing, but yeah, if you want to share more about it.
Yeah. Oh, you don't know who Art Bell is?
Oh no, I know who Art is.
Oh.
I actually was lucky enough to have a very brief chat with him a couple of times when he did his Midnight in the Desert show, and I was dead set surprised I even got that opportunity. But yeah, I always found his shows absolutely fascinating, and I think I came a little bit more later in that sort of scene.
Yeah.
So the only time I really got a chance to listen to Art was really through YouTube. But for the vast majority of the newer shows and things like that, it was with George Norrie. So Art
that was a shame that all that happened.
Yes. Yeah.
I can't believe
definitely
he's
was.
still there.
I
He's
don't
totally
listen to
ruined that
George
show.
anymore.
That show is nothing like it used to be.
I haven't listened to that show in ages. But
I mean, it seems like
kick it off.
the first hour of it's just a vitamin commercial every now, right? Isn't it just a vitamin commercial now?
Oh, so the beauty in being able to watch it on YouTube is that all of that I didn't get. So whoever uploaded it, because usually it wasn't done officially by not by George's team. So all those ads and everything like that was all cut. So I just heard the show.
It seems like
it's great.
I'll go through looking for guests and things. I'll see like, oh, Ben Fuchs is on or whatever his name is on Coast to Coast. Oh, he's on like every other day talking about vitamin supplements. Really?
Oh yeah, wow.
I mean,
is that
come
almost
on.
like a similar way how Alex Jones was going hammer and tong with his vitamins and all these things like that he has?
Yeah. I'm laughing at Antonio's making some funny comments. Yeah, it's funny, Antonio. Huh? Don't know what you're talking about. Haha. I'll just leave that at that. All right, Bash, I'm gonna let you go, man. I'll open the lineup.
Hey, no worries. Great chatting with you, and Thank you very much for the show.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Chat.
All right, that was Vash. Everybody knows Vash. He's in the Discord app with us. All right, so the line is open if anybody wants to call. I guess I'll give it a few minutes, and I guess if nobody calls, we'll wrap it up. Hey, Sapphire Elf. Hey, he says. I was worried about you Australian guys. I didn't know if you were gonna wake up. What is it, Sunday over there? On a Sunday morning. Wendy Lou says it was very surreal. My house was in an 80 decibel landing path of the base. We have the B-52s. I bet. And yeah. Not Quite Human says leave him alone. No. Arlene says it stinks when a show I like becomes an infomercial. Yeah, I know. That's why we don't do that here. That's why the name We No Longer Speak isn't on this show anymore. That's what he wanted to do. You know, got to go and what is everybody doing now? The IP address blockers and the survival food, right? Kids from the 90s hotline. Let's see. It's our reliance on mod cons that makes us lazy. Skill and adaptation is the key. All right, guys. Vash, you gonna get to bed? Vash has been up for a long time. He's been up for 20-ish hours. You know, I find the older I get, I can't do that anymore. I think it's funny when you're a kid, you actually try to stay up like, I've been up for 30 hours. Ha ha ha. John Muldoon says I can't get a connection from Neptune. Yeah, probably not. Oh, am I gotta open that up? There. I guess guys try calling now. I think I gotta have that open. All right. Akram AJ was on Nerdrotic on YouTube last night. It was a good show. It's always a competition who has been up the longest. Yeah, that's true. AB says he buys all his survival food from ads on cars. 90s kids are in their 30s now. That's true, isn't it? What was it like growing up with that awesome music? We had great music in the 90s, didn't we? I guess I graduated in 93, so I would have been, I guess, 18 in 93, so I was getting up there. Yep, Sunday morning. Not Quite Human says, would you let Kermit the Frog call in? No, William. This is a 9/11 show. All right, guys. Well, we had great music in the 60s, too. Yeah, you did. In fact, I remember early 90s, that's what I was listening to. I was listening to 60s music. I was into Kansas and the Doors and, man, all kinds of stuff here. Bernard Evans says, conflict, please reference the Bush plane must hit steel video and the satanic eye of the Haras. They did it Ground Zero a year later. Both on YouTube. All right, guys. So there you go. Hit that up. Distortion in Reality says, if a comment that would wipe us out or a good chance to, do you think the government will tell us? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think they would. What do you guys think? You think they'd tell us? I don't think they'd tell us. I think they knew 9/11 was coming. They didn't tell us about that. Anyway. All right, guys. Let's see what we're looking at here on the schedule coming up. It's September. We're going to be back on Monday, but I'm not sure who the guest is going to be yet. I'm going to find somebody last minute. If not, I'm not going to do a show. Les Velez is on at 6:30. Creepy Little Book is scheduled for the 20th, but we'll see how that goes. It's his birthday. I know he's taking a break. He still hasn't said no to it. All of you creepy little bookers out there, you creepsters that are listening, I guess we'll see what's going to happen with that show. If he doesn't show up, we'll just do open lines. So I'm going to keep that day open to him until he absolutely tells me not to. On the 22nd, we've got Mark Forentino, and the show I had on the 23rd was canceled. So we'll see if we can't get another guest for that. Classy Cannabis says class of 97. All right. Carol's Cookie says creepers forever. That's right. I'm a creeper. Definitely do appreciate all you guys coming over. I know you, man, you guys are going to be bored for the next 10 days, huh? With Pete taking a break. He's like, oh, 7 to 10 days. I'm like, yeah, it's 10 days. If he comes back before 10 days, it'll be a short hi, how you doing? We are going to troll, visit all the other streams while Pete is on vacay, Arlene says. All right. Awesome. Remember, you can always go check out an old show you may have missed. You know, it was awesome last night. It seemed like everybody was coming together on Pete's show and really helping him out with the super chats. I thought that was awesome. And somebody really hooked him up there with a good one. I was like, yeah. I don't even know how to process Creepy Little Book being on vacation. Well, I mean, I kind of seen it coming. You could tell he was getting burnt out. You could tell. You could just tell. And I kind of knew it. I'm thinking 7 days a week, man. This guy just needs to take some time. So I'm glad he is. Good for Pete. Hope he's listening. Enjoy your time, man. Enjoy your time. He does. Carol Cookies. He needs the time away. He does. Vash says, question, would you rather Biden or another term with Bush? I don't know what the difference would be. Right? It's kind of all the same puppet masters. He also needed the confidence boost he got from everyone last night. Yeah. All right, guys. That's going to do it for us. We got an hour in. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back when we're back. I hope everyone has a great day. I hope everyone remembers. I mean, we can all have our theories as to what really went on or what really happened, but the fact is that something happened and a lot of people died that day. And I think that we need to keep those families in mind as we get through it. So, today for them is not, and not only the people that died on 9/11, but all of the soldiers that have passed since because of that day. And I think we need to remember that too. Wendy Lou says, never forget. That's right. Never forget. And, there are shows for trying to talk about different theories. And this isn't that show. This is a show, or was a show, to just remember that day. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna sign off in here. I'm glad I had something to say. I'm glad some people called in. And until next time, batten down the hatches, fellas. Be safe. Oh, I should play. Hang on here. I'm still learning this new thing here. I like playing this.
Some aircraft that were clearing. Talks about some
Greetings and welcome to Conflict Radio.